let's say that there's a guy attending who's 30 years old, has a seminary degree, a college degree from a fundamentalist institution, but he now finds that he identifies much more closely with Gospel Coalition crowd than he does with his traditional roots. How would you counsel a candidate in that situation to pursue a pastoral call?
The first word of recommendation I'd have for somebody like that is that it's very important to really work hard at establishing two kinds of relationships with older Christian leaders, pastors, seminary professors, missionaries, people that you respect. The first kind of relationship is a mentor. And a mentor is somebody who is willing to meet actively with you, maybe monthly, maybe quarterly, and will really have a view toward where you are and where you need to go, and someone who can be a counselor to you, someone who can get to know you, and you have to seek out that kind of person. And speaking as a man now in his late 50s, I'm very open to that kind of relationship with a 30-year-old who's called to serve Christ and is eager to learn. And there's a lot of openness in men in their 50s and 60s to that kind of relationship. So one is a mentor who can give you some understanding as to where you are and where you need to go as you look for a new direction, like Chris has described. The second kind of relationship is what is often called a sponsor. And this is somebody that maybe you'll meet once a year at a conference. Maybe it's someone that's more distant, someone maybe that's harder to be accessible to, someone who's more nationally known. But to take them out to lunch, to let them know you, for you to know them, to these guys on the stage, the speakers that are here, the track leaders, to go out to lunch, to try to connect with them once a year. Sometimes that person can become a sponsor to you into the channels and into the opportunities that you're looking for. So those are two suggestions for you.
Yeah, I'd be curious, Mark, and then Lig, to hear what you would say to that, if you would add anything to that. Someone who is now identifying more closely with a group like this or T4G than their historical heritage, how would they go about pursuing a pastoral call?
Well, Chris, the whole way I would suggest somebody pursue a pastoral call is not like I'm a guy looking for a job. It's I'm in a church where I am recognized as an elder, or as a person who will be an elder given time, and then it's not just my individual responsibility, like I hope I can find a job someplace, but we're an aircraft carrier. We got somebody on us right now who we know we're training to help go out there, and we will help to make sure that they are placed. So if I have that kind of conversation, which I do a number of times usually at a conference like this, I just tell them, you're thinking about it all backward. You need to be in a church. You need to be in a place where you can be recommended. So kind of what you're saying, Rick, about a mentor, only I would not even just think of it as an individual sponsor. I think a community of people who know you, affirm your gifts, and then it's the leaders of that community that recommend you to another community.
Yeah, I would agree, and we have, because we're in a town with a seminary, we're regularly dealing with this, people moving from traditions out of one and into another. We will
Baptists becoming Presbyterians,
or people that are at a Presbyterian seminary but are convictionally Baptist. So, for instance, Josh, I sent to you as a convictional Baptist, and you're training him. Brett Lewis, I sent to John Piper at Bethlehem Baptist. These are both guys that are obviously gifted for ministry. They're convictionally not in line with the Presbyterian Church in America, although we're very, very close theologically in many areas. So when you see a guy in the context of the local church, and you say, this guy is gifted, he's theologically not in line with us, I'm going to be looking for the guys that he is theologically in line with, that he's going to be a blessing to and work in. So Brett's working with John, but planted a church with Bethlehem Baptist, and We send guys to Mark Dever all the time. So I do think that's why when you see someone in the context of local church ministry, you're able to commend their character, you're able to commend their work ethic, you're able to commend the way they relate to other people, you're able to see their spiritual maturity, you see something of their theological convictions, and if you're a good pastor, you want to see that person set in a situation where they're going to flourish, not where they're going to bump up against doctrinal distinctives that they don't buy into is in accord with God's word, or which are out of accord with the community that they're wanting to work in. And you're going to be aware of some of the relational dynamics that exist in those different settings, and you can help in that process. So we do try, and we do have some folks that come to us Baptists and become convictionally Presbyterian, and you have to, there's a whole ethos and network that they have to then fit into if that happens. But I do think it's being able to observe someone in the context of the local church that enables you to commend them into another situation.
Mark, 9 Marks, Capital Baptist, you have an internship program, right, which would help work with this sort of thing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a pastoral search process, so we're not there to try to help guys find jobs. We're there to train them in ecclesiology, doctrine of the church, and to do it in the life setting of observing and being a part of a local church. So they get to kind of kick the tires while they're learning about the history of the automobile, at the same time. But we do continue to pray for those folks after they've been through. We put their names in the back of our membership directory, and as long as they keep us in touch with where they are, we continue to pray for them and try to be helpful to them as we can.
Do they usually come as interns before or after they have theological education? How does that work?
We've had guys older than me come and do it. We've had, last year we had a church in Venezuela give their pastor 5 months off. So he came up with his wife and 2 kids. And he did it for 5 months and went right back to his church as the pastor. And then we certainly have guys who haven't even been to seminary yet. They're coming from their undergraduate degree. Our preference theologically is to get them before seminary because we want to help put categories in their minds about doctrine of the church, questions that they can then pursue in their classes in seminary and make their classes more valuable. But it's easier on us if we take them older because they've had a job, they know how to behave, it's just easier, When we get them at 30 and the life and the wife has knocked some sense into him, it's just simpler for us in managing them, so it's